All right, guys. I just want to talk about Penn State football. It's just kind of frustrating what's going on right now. I don't really understand why we've got these 4 stars and 5 stars on the field, and yet we can't even find a way to beat Maryland and Nebraska. Do you understand it's really ridiculous. I understood the first two games. Indiana, Ohio State. Going into the Indiana game, I knew it would be tough. But we lost and I was disappointed, but that was at least somewhat acceptable. And then we only lose by 13 to Ohio State. And then we're like, okay, we're 0-2, but probably our two toughest games are out of the way, right? So we're going to play Maryland coming up. That's going to be a get right game. No, we're going to lose. We're going to get dominated by Maryland at home. No, and then we've got to play Nebraska. And I mean, I'm not really surprised we lost to Nebraska based off of the Maryland performance, but this is ridiculous. It shouldn't be happening. They're gonna probably lose this week against Iowa. Um, Michigan, who knows? They're a team that is kind of in Penn State's boat that's struggling right now. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is just unacceptable. I don't care if it's 2020 with COVID and everything. Like everybody's dealing with it, and I know maybe we got hit a little bit harder than others with Micah Parsons leaving, and then Journey Brown getting his medical condition. He can't even play football ever again, which is too bad because I think he was just scratching the surface of what he can do in his in his football career, and then on to the pros. And then Noah Kane, our second best running back. I think he could be a starter in most other places around the country. He gets hurt and he's out for the season. So, yes, we've had some trouble keeping guys healthy and on the program. But, you know, that's not an excuse with how well we've recruited the last couple of years, in 2018 and 2019 specifically. And that should be the meat of your team right now, those classes. And we're just not getting the job done. I remember every Penn State fan coming in talked about this O line as the best O line James Franklin's had, and we're not even that good. I think we're probably worse than last year in the O line. Sean Clifford is worse than last year. Will Levis is better than him right now, which is I mean Levis is solid, but he's not like somebody that should be your starting quarterback. Um, maybe. Yeah, I mean, he's capable. He's capable. I'm a little optimistic about Levis, but still, like Clifford's supposed to be a guy that reached the next level and was supposed to be clearly better than Levis. And we want him more than just he's capable. And the problem is he's not even capable right now. At least Levis is capable, and that's why we're gonna have to put him in. But well, anyways, and then the receiving core is actually sort of a nice bonus this year because we we are getting some good production from Parker Washington and Keandre Lambert looks good. Two true freshmen that obviously they can't leave until after the 2022 season. So future receiver actually looks sort of bright. We didn't really know what the team would look like without KJ Hamler at receiver, but that receiver, it's decent. And then Jahan Dotson's making a bunch of plays. Had a really great game against Ohio State. He'll probably go to the NFL next year, but um, I'm optimistic about that position, but just about everywhere else in the team, I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied at all. Um, People are talking about defending James Franklin and saying, "Oh, COVID," like it's just because of COVID that he shouldn't be fired. And I know that Sandy Barber, the athletic director for Penn State, is going to make excuses for him because she always wants to keep Franklin around. I've been a Franklin supporter. I've defended him more often than probably the average Penn State fan the last few years when he loses to Ohio State in a game that he should have won, or a Michigan State or Minnesota last year. I've defended him, um, but this is unacceptable. This is just not good Penn State football. We haven't had a losing season since I think yeah, it was 2004. We haven't had a losing season since then. We're one of the only few programs that have gone that long without having a losing season. Even during the sanction years, we didn't have a losing season, and this is just not good. We're Penn State. We're not Temple or some other crappy school. We're and another thing also is recruiting. It's not even just the on-field performance. we didn't land a top 10 recruit in Pennsylvania this year, which is ridiculous. Franklin came in 2014 and he said he wants to dominate the state, referring to recruiting. He wants to dominate the state. And, Pennsylvania, we're not this like elite state when it comes to high school football. We're not California, Texas, Florida. Like that's where the meat of the recruits normally come from. But we got some solid players here. Like Julian Fleming was the #1 receiver last year. Nolan Rucci, the 5-star tackle. Back-to-back classes, we were right in the mix for both of those guys. We were favored at one point for both of those guys. But no, they go to other Big Ten schools. They go to other Big Ten schools, and Ohio State is where Fleming went to, and then Nolan Rucci in this year's class will be going to Wisconsin. That's unacceptable. It's just ridiculous. You got to keep these guys in state. It's not like we get a bunch of great Pennsylvania recruits. We don't really have anybody else in Pennsylvania to compete with except maybe Pitt. But even then, we have a more prestigious program based off the success we've had the last few years, anyways, than Pitt does. There's no reason why we shouldn't recruit very well in Pennsylvania. Okay, we need to get the top prospects in Pennsylvania, and that Franklin's not getting the job done. We haven't even gotten one of the top 10 prospects in Pennsylvania. Um, and it's just not it's not a good look for the program right now. We're 0-4. We'll see how the second half of the season goes, but I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic at all because there isn't really anything that to be optimistic about. I mean, I hope this team still has some life in it because, I mean, the only thing that makes me a little bit optimistic actually is that Penn State at least didn't give up against Nebraska. They came back against Maryland when they just kind of looked bad early. They never really did anything the rest of the game, but against Nebraska, they at least looked like they wanted to win and cared about winning in the second half. Hopefully that carries over into the rest of the season because, it sucks. Obviously, the season's a wash when it comes to any sort of championship aspirations, but when it comes to just pride in general, like I'd like to win a few games this season. Like I don't want to finish 0-9. I don't even want to finish 1-8. I want to finish with at least a respectable record. And at the end of the day, it's just that's where this program is. Going into this season, we were a top 10 team that was expected to challenge Ohio State, and people predicted us to make the playoff. Even if we lost to Ohio State, if we won every other game, we very well could have made the playoff. But no, we won't make the playoff. And that was our goal coming into the season. Now we're just hoping we win like a game, and that's it's very disappointing. We've always known Franklin as a bad in-game coach. I think everybody's kind of respected that um, view. I think that's true. I think Franklin probably even would admit that he's not the greatest in-game coach when it comes to making decisions. Um, but his mantra has been developing players and recruiting, and that's what he's done most of his career. If you look at his 2014, well, that's when he first came in. That was more Bill O'Brien's class and his class. But 2015 and 16 classes, those were good classes, not great, but those were classes that he was able to do a lot with. And he developed players really well. He got guys like Mike Gesicki, Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders. Um, those guys are now doing very well in the NFL. I mean, obviously Barkley isn't. He's injured, but well, anyways, he's done fine in his career so far. But he's developed players. He took a 3-star in Trace McSorley, made him one of the best QBs in the country. Um, Nobody wanted McSorley as a quarterback except for him coming out of high school. He developed him into a really good quarterback for us, the winningest quarterback in Penn State history. Um, and he's taken some good solid players and turn them into great players. And he's taken some okay players and turned them to good, solid players. And it's just, this isn't, he isn't really doing that anymore. I feel like we don't have those kind of development, um, like those developing players that I'm looking at. I don't see anybody that's coming in and really getting a lot better from freshman year on. I mean, I saw that with Journey Brown, but obviously he's out of the program now. And, I'm not really seeing that really, but Joey Porter Jr. is a guy, the corner that I think that's maybe coming along, but he's a guy that still has some of his struggles this year. Um, it's this is just disappointing. It's a bad look for Penn State. I'm a Penn State fan, and I'm only 18. It's not like I'm gonna claim that I knew like most of the paternal years. I did catch the tail end of his years when he barely coached. He was in the booth. Seemed like most of the time, without even a headset. I don't even know exactly how much coaching he did his last few years caught um, what I caught when during Penn State football. But I think that when you look at this team, they're not what they used to be, even when the sanctions came down. They were at least a solid team that can compete and beat most of the teams they should beat. And now they're just pathetic. Probably the worst team in the Big Ten. I think they're I don't know. Maybe they're not as bad as Illinois, but they're pretty bad. And this shouldn't be happening. We're Penn State, like I said, this isn't just some average program here we're talking about. We're considered a top 10, 15 team year in, year out, and this isn't good. Um, well, thank you guys. I'm just kind of tired of what I'm seeing this year. I'm a Steelers fan, so don't feel bad for me when it comes to football because I'm a big Steelers fan, and they're doing the complete opposite of Penn State. They're 9-0 undefeated, while Penn State's 0-4 winless. But yeah, don't feel bad for me when it comes to football because I have at least something to watch during this COVID football season that's really making me happy. And well, anyways, guys, thank you. Maybe sometime this week we'll talk some more. I might incorporate more than just Penn State football talk. I might incorporate some more college football talk. Thank you guys. We are Penn State.